A man who, even before being born, already had his entire life planned out. He was a great preacher in the medieval era, combating the heresies of his time. Today's curiosities are about Saint Dominic of Guzmán. Here are 10 curiosities about him. 10. The birth of Saint Dominic of Guzmán. Born in Calaruga, Spain, in the year 1170, he came into the world as the son of Felix de Guzmán and Joanna of Aza, parents described as virtuous and pious. One of the most notable aspects of Saint Dominic's story is the premonitory vision his mother, Joanna of Aza, had even before his birth. In a mystical experience, Joanna was blessed with an apparition of Saint Dominic of Silos, a saint revered in the Catholic tradition. In this vision, Saint Dominic of Silos prophesied that the son Joanna was carrying in her womb would be a light for the world and the salvation of the Church. This vision not only brought a sense of destiny and purpose to Saint Dominic's life from his birth but also laid the foundation for his future spiritual mission. From a very young age, Saint Dominic was raised in an environment of piety and faith, shaping his personality and preparing him for service to the Church. If you are not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe so you don't miss any curiosities about the saints. 9. Virtues from youth. From the earliest years of his life, Saint Dominic of Guzmán exhibited an impressive set of virtues that distinguished him among his contemporaries. His pious upbringing, influenced by the examples of his parents, Felix de Guzmán and Joanna of Aza, established the foundations for the development of his virtuous personality and his future service to the Christian faith. Modesty was a fundamental characteristic of Saint Dominic from his youth. He did not seek personal glory or attention from others but preferred a discreet and humble life, centered on service to God and others. His modesty was evident in his words and actions, reflecting a deep humility of spirit. Saint Dominic's sense of withdrawal was also notable. He had an innate ability to retreat into prayer and reflection, seeking communion with God in moments of silence and contemplation. This inner disposition prepared him for a life of service and mission, providing him with the clarity and serenity needed to discern God's will in his life. Saint Dominic's humility was evident in his attitude towards others and his approach to life. He did not consider himself superior to others but recognized his total dependence on God and his continual need for grace and mercy. His humility enabled him to be a compassionate and welcoming leader, ready to serve and help those in need. Devotion was a central characteristic of Saint Dominic's life from his youth. He cultivated a deep relationship with God and a fervent devotion to the Virgin Mary, seeking her intercession and protection at all times. His devotion fueled his spiritual life and propelled him to a total dedication to the service of the gospel. Temperance was another virtue that Saint Dominic demonstrated in all areas of his life. He exercised control over his desires and appetites, living a balanced and disciplined life. His temperance helped him maintain focus on his spiritual goals and resist the temptations of the world. Finally, obedience was a remarkable quality in Saint Dominic from his youth. He submitted his will to the will of God and the legitimate authority of the Church, readily obeying divine calls and the teachings of the faith. His obedience was a testament to his trust in divine providence and his commitment to the mission entrusted to him. 8. Education and teaching. At the age of 14, Saint Dominic of Guzmán embarked on a remarkable educational journey by enrolling at the University of Valencia. His early entry into university demonstrated not only his exceptional academic aptitude but also his commitment to learning and his desire to serve the Church and society. While attending the university, Saint Dominic did not limit himself to merely absorbing knowledge, he also excelled as an educator and spiritual advisor. Despite his young age, he did not hesitate to share his knowledge and guide others, especially in matters related to the Holy Scriptures and the Christian faith. As a dedicated and erudite student, Saint Dominic not only mastered academic teachings but also sought a deep understanding of the truths of faith. He delved into the sacred scriptures, seeking to reveal their spiritual richness and apply it to daily life. His passion for studying the Word of God enabled him to help others resolve their moral dilemmas and find spiritual guidance. In addition to his studies and academic teachings, Saint Dominic actively engaged in university life and the surrounding community. He participated in intellectual debates and theological discussions, contributing his insight and wisdom to academic dialogues. His inspiring presence and commitment to truth garnered admiration among his peers and professors. Saint Dominic's role as an educator and spiritual advisor reflected not only his keen intellect but also his compassion and dedication to the well-being of others. He was deeply committed to helping people grow in their faith and find answers to their spiritual questions and dilemmas. His patient and compassionate approach made him a beloved and respected figure among those who sought his guidance and wisdom. Leave your prayer request in the comments for Saint Dominic of Guzmán to intercede for you before God. 7. From studies to practice. After a decade of studies and academic activities at the University of Valencia, Saint Dominic of Guzmán gave a new direction to his life by joining the Canons Regular of St. Augustine. This transition marked not only a change of environment but also an evolution in his spiritual and ministerial path. Joining the Canons Regular of St. Augustine provided Saint Dominic with the opportunity to deepen his life of prayer, study, and community service. During 9 years dedicated to this religious community, he immersed himself further in the spiritual practices and intellectual formation that would prepare him for his future mission. As a member of the Canons Regular of St. Augustine, Saint Dominic not only continued his theological and biblical studies but also actively engaged in the formation and teaching of young aspirants to the religious life. His experience as an educator at the university enabled him to impart knowledge and values to the future leaders of the Church. In addition to his commitment to teaching, Saint Dominic also dedicated himself to the practice of Christian virtues within the context of the communal life of the Canons Regular of St. Augustine. His life of prayer, service, and fraternity reflected his deep commitment to following Christ and his willingness to live according to the teachings of the Gospel. During these years, Saint Dominic continued to develop and perfect the virtues that had characterized him since his youth: modesty, withdrawal, humility, devotion, temperance, and obedience. These qualities not only shaped his character but also enabled him to lead by example and inspire others through his life of holiness. 6. Mission and Confrontation. At the age of 33, Saint Dominic of Guzmán was entrusted with an important mission that would take him beyond the borders of his homeland. His journey towards Denmark, however, was interrupted by the confrontation with one of the most challenging heresies of his time, the Cathars, also known as Albigensians, in southern France. This unforeseen interruption marked the beginning of a mission of great significance for Saint Dominic and the history of the Church. The Cathars propagated a complex and dangerous heresy that threatened not only doctrinal integrity but also the foundations of Christian faith and society of the time. Encountering the Cathars, Saint Dominic recognized the urgency of his mission to combat this heresy and promote the true Catholic doctrine. He knew that the battle against the Cathars would require not only courage and determination but also a deep understanding of the faith and exceptional skill in preaching and teaching. Saint Dominic embraced his mission with fervor and dedication, committing himself to confronting the Cathars with solid arguments and an exemplary life of holiness. He delved into the challenge of combating the heresy, facing intense debates, intellectual challenges, and even physical confrontations in his defense of Christian truth. His approach to dealing with the Cathars was marked by a combination of fervent preaching, direct confrontation, and a witness of life. Saint Dominic sought not only to refute the false doctrines of the Cathars but also to offer an authentic and true alternative in the message of the Gospel. The confrontation with the Cathars represented a crucial moment in the life of Saint Dominic and in the history of the Church. His courage and determination in facing this challenging heresy were fundamental for the preservation of the Catholic faith and the propagation of the evangelical truth in medieval Europe. Although his original mission to travel to Denmark was interrupted, the experience of confronting the Cathars in southern France paved the way for the future foundation of the Order of Preachers, more commonly known as the Dominicans, and consolidated Saint Dominic's role as a tireless defender of truth and Catholic orthodoxy. 5. Cathar Heresy. The Cathar Heresy, also known as Albigensianism, was one of the most significant and challenging heresies the Catholic Church faced during the Middle Ages. Emerging in the 12th century, primarily in the southern region of France, the Cathars propagated a series of ideas that posed a direct challenge to the doctrine and authority of the Church. One of the main characteristics of the Cathar heresy was miserabilism, a belief that preached absolute disdain for all material goods and worldly things. For the Cathars, materiality was seen as inherently evil, and the pursuit of wealth or comfort was considered contrary to true spirituality. This radical view deeply influenced the lifestyle of the Cathar followers, who lived in extreme simplicity and poverty. In addition to miserabilism, the Cathars also advocated an extreme form of asceticism, rejecting not only the possession of material goods but also many basic pleasures and comforts of life. This ascetic approach was based on the belief that only through complete detachment from the material world could spiritual salvation be achieved. Another important aspect of the Cathar Heresy was the relativization of morality. The Cathars believed that physical actions were of no real importance for spiritual salvation and that only the inner purity of the soul was relevant in the eyes of God. This view led to a kind of moral dualism, where physical activities were seen as insignificant or even irrelevant compared to spiritual life. These ideas represented a significant challenge to the authority of the Catholic Church, which sought to establish moral and spiritual norms for its faithful. Additionally, the Cathar Heresy threatened to undermine the very structure of feudal society, which depended on the acceptance and authority of the Church to maintain order and social cohesion. In the face of this challenge, the Church responded with vigorous measures to combat the spread of the Cathar Heresy, including preaching crusades and instituting the Inquisition to investigate and punish heretics. However, the Cathar Heresy continued to exert significant influence in certain regions of Europe for many years, representing one of the most complex and enduring challenges faced by the medieval Church. 4. The trial by fire. During one of these confrontations, the Cathars proposed the trial by fire as a challenge to the authority and veracity of the doctrines defended by Saint Dominic. In this challenge, both sides would place their books of teachings in a bonfire, and those that resisted the fire would be considered as bearers of divine truth. Saint Dominic accepted the challenge and placed his notebook of arguments in the fire, while the Cathars did the same with their own books. While the heretics' books quickly succumbed to the flames, Saint Dominic's notebook remained intact, resisting the fire without being consumed. This event was interpreted as a miracle and a demonstration of divine power in support of Saint Dominic's cause and the true Catholic doctrine. The trial by fire not only reinforced Saint Dominic's authority and credibility before the Cathars and the local community but also served as a moment of inspiration and faith for those who witnessed the event. Additionally, this episode highlighted Saint Dominic's conviction and determination to defend the Church's teachings and combat the heresies that threatened the Christian faith. 3. The foundation of the Order of Preachers. The foundation of the Order of Preachers, or Dominicans, by Saint Dominic of Guzmán was a significant milestone in the history of the Catholic Church and the fight against the heresies that afflicted the 13th century. After dedicating 4 years to intense preaching and confrontation with the Cathars in southern France, Saint Dominic realized the need for a religious order dedicated to preaching the true Catholic doctrine and defending the faith against the rising heresies. Thus, in 1215, Saint Dominic formally established the Order of Preachers, whose members became known as Dominicans, in reference to the founder. The order was officially approved by Pope Innocent III in the same year, during the Fourth Lateran Council, recognizing its crucial role in the mission of preaching the truth and combating the heresies that threatened the Church. The Dominicans adopted an innovative approach to apostolate, combining contemplative life with apostolic activity. They sought personal sanctification through prayer, study, and community life, while dedicating themselves to preaching and teaching the truths of the faith to the faithful and those who had strayed from the true doctrine. Saint Dominic established a series of fundamental principles for the Dominicans, including the rigorous study of the Scriptures and theology, frequent and incisive preaching, voluntary poverty, and devotion to the Virgin Mary. These principles shaped the identity and charism of the Order of Preachers over the centuries. The foundation of the Order of Preachers represented an effective response to the theological and pastoral challenges of its time, providing an organized and committed structure for the defense and promotion of the Catholic faith. Over the centuries, the Dominicans have continued to play a vital role in education, evangelization, defense of the truth, and promotion of social justice worldwide. 2. Fraternal Encounter. The meeting between Saint Dominic of Guzmán and Saint Francis of Assisi in Rome represents a significant moment in the history of the Church and the trajectory of these two great medieval saints. Both founders of important religious orders, Saint Dominic, the founder of the Dominicans, and Saint Francis, the founder of the Franciscans, shared a deep friendship and mutual admiration. The encounter occurred in a context where the Church faced significant challenges, including the spread of heresies, corruption in the clergy, and the need for spiritual and moral renewal. Both Saint Dominic and Saint Francis felt the call of God to respond to these challenges and work for the reform of the Church and the customs of the time. When they met in Rome, the two saints immediately recognized their similar missions. Although their approaches differed in some aspects, both shared the common goal of restoring the authenticity and simplicity of the gospel in the life of the Church and society. Saint Dominic, with his emphasis on the study of the scriptures and preaching, sought to combat heresies intellectually and strengthen the understanding of true Catholic doctrine among the faithful. On the other hand, Saint Francis, with his life of poverty, humility, and love for the needy, sought to witness the gospel through example and the practice of charity. Despite the differences in their approaches, Saint Dominic and Saint Francis recognized the complementarity of their missions and the value of each other's work. Their friendship and mutual collaboration strengthened the movement of spiritual renewal occurring in the Church at the time and inspired later generations of Christians to follow their examples of holiness and service. 1. Legacy of Holiness. The legacy of holiness left by Saint Dominic of Guzmán endures to this day, inspiring millions of faithful worldwide. His exemplary life and dedication to the propagation of the Catholic faith were recognized by the Church, culminating in his canonization by Pope Gregory IX in 1234, only 13 years after his death. Saint Dominic is remembered not only for his personal holiness but also for his significant contribution to the life of the Church. Furthermore, Saint Dominic promoted devotion to the Blessed Virgin Mary and the Holy Rosary as powerful means of prayer and intercession. He recognized Mary's central role in the work of redemption and encouraged the faithful to turn to her in their spiritual and material needs. The Holy Rosary, in particular, became one of the main practices of devotion in the Catholic tradition, thanks in large part to Saint Dominic's efforts and teachings. He believed that the 150 Hail Marys that make up the Rosary could save the Church from heresies and adverse influences of the time. The liturgical day dedicated to Saint Dominic of Guzmán is celebrated on August 8th. And so we come to the end of another story full of curiosities. Don't forget to leave in the comments the curiosities about which saint you would like to see here on the channel. And we'll see you in the next story.